Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait till everyone funnels in, give it a couple, maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. All right. 11:02, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, well, hi everyone. My name is Joe Cullen. I'm a customer success manager here at Headset. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for joining us today. Wherever you are, we hope that you are well, that you are in good spirits, good health, and we really appreciate you carving time out of your busy schedules to meet with us today. It's kind of crazy that we're already gearing up for the holiday season, and we are so excited to talk promotional strategy with you guys. But before I introduce today's speakers, I want to first address some housekeeping agenda items. This webinar will be recorded and sent to each of you upon its conclusion. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, just use that chat functionality in the toolbar below. And we will respond to questions at the end of the webinar. If we don't respond to them, we'll follow up in a blog post, which all of you guys will receive. Lastly, we will be offering each of you a free week of Retailer Premium for attending. This is the tool that we're going to be highlighting today. And that offer can be redeemed just by reaching out to one of us, either myself or by one of our sales reps. Or you can reach us at info@headset.io. So please reach out. Now we will be highlighting our Retailer Premium tool today, but Retailer Premium is just one tool within the larger Headset ecosystem. For those of you who are unfamiliar or new to Headset, I want to quickly provide a brief introduction to our suite of products. So Headset provides insight into cannabis consumer trends by way of 3 main products. The first product is called Insights, which is our market intelligence product that provides real-time access into market level data, now serving 10 recreational markets, or now 11 with Saskatchewan, reporting on metrics like brand rankings, demographic trends, product level performance, and so much more. Our second product is called Bridge, and Bridge is a tool that enables retailers to directly share sales and inventory data with their vendors to facilitate a more collaborative relationship. And this is modeled off of a common retail practice called VMI, or vendor managed inventory. Lastly, Retailer, which most of you are most likely using and familiar with, is our third product. And Retailer is a business intelligence tool for cannabis retailers to better track their sales, optimize inventory practices, and streamline operations. Earlier this year, we launched Retailer Premium, which is a product add-on to Retailer Pulse. And Premium really gives cannabis retailers the ability to dig into their data to understand who their customer is, understand those customers' purchasing behaviors, and really better understand the various channels through which they're acquiring customers and ultimately retaining them. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be using Retailer Premium to kind of guide today's conversation. Now, as a customer success manager, I have the pleasure of talking to retailers every day, many of whom may be on today's webinar. And if you're currently a Headset client, you and I may have at some point discussed promotional strategy. And from my various conversations with retailers of all sizes, this topic of promotions and discounting has come up a lot. And from what I've gleaned, there's still a massive blind spot in the industry when it comes to discounting. What should I discount? How often should I discount? How much should I discount? And people are really craving data to help give them a better sense of direction. And so I'm thrilled to bring this webinar to you guys today because I know this is something that a lot of you have asked for. And with the holidays around the corner, I think it's a very timely and important conversation to be had. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers today. Next slide, please, Liz. Thank you. First, we have the Honorable Liz Connors, the brain of Headsets, more formally known as Headset's Director of Analytics. Prior to working for Headset, Liz worked as a data scientist in CPG retail and financial services, as well as spent some time in financial and economic consulting. And among her many, many talents, Liz is a budding watercolorist and dabbler in oiled pastels. I'm still waiting on my commissioned art piece, Liz. Our next speaker is Cooper Ashley, who is also a data analyst and the new owner of the cutest Labradoodle, Louie, who I wish was presenting with him today. Cooper also writes a lot of our industry reports, and prior to joining Headset, used to work in sales and logistics for a cannabis producer processor in Washington. Our third speaker is Cassie Thielen, another data analyst extraordinaire, who came to Headset from Hanes as a data analyst and who admittedly loves needlepoint embroidery a little too much. So if you're in a bind and still need a present around the holidays, Cassie might just hook you up with some custom embroidery work. Last but not least, Jewelry will be rounding out today's webinar. Jewel is Headset's senior product manager and came to Headset from Tableau, where she was basically a professional storyteller. And if that's not cool enough, Jewel plays in 3 bands and has the most aesthetically pleasing velvet green couch I've ever seen. So basically we have 4 very cool, very smart, talented people here to help educate us. And now we're gonna just review today's agenda before I hand it over to Liz. So Liz is gonna kick us off by giving us an overview of the holiday season in the cannabis industry and kind of talk about the do's and don'ts of discounting. Cooper is then going to give us an overview of holiday trends and kind of what to expect with Cannabis 2.0 in Canada. Then we're going to kind of dive into the product, retailer premium. Cassie's going to kind of kick us off and help us better understand data's role in marketing campaigns. Jewel's going to show us our new segmentation dashboards, which are really exciting and are really going to help you refine your marketing approach when it comes to holiday promotions. And lastly, we'll just touch on some other cannabis retail solutions and resources. And then we'll have a Q&A. So Liz, I'm going to pass the baton over to you.
Great, thanks, Joe. Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Connors. I'm the Director of Analytics here at Headset. And I am going to start out the day by talking a bit about discounts. So the first thing I want to talk about is why we kind of are talking about this today. And the reason for that is we want everybody to have successful holiday campaigns, especially in Canada with the 2.0 products being new this year. So they weren't around last year during the holidays. We have some particular trends that we know from US markets that we'd like to discuss. And then we want to talk about the best ways to run promotions during this time of year. So before we do too much and get into the tool, what I want to do is briefly talk about discounting theory. Discounts are an important part of running a retail business, but in using discounts, we want to be sure to keep in mind the goal. So as we plan our discounting strategy, we should ask ourselves every time, why are we doing this discount? At the highest level, all discounts really just serve a single purpose, and it's to change consumer behavior in order to drive incremental unit volume. That's a big sentence, so let's talk about what it means. When we give a discount, we're incenting customers to alter their behaviors. We hope that the presence of the discount will encourage consumers to make a purchase that they would have not otherwise made at that time. By enticing customers that would not have otherwise purchased the product to make that purchase, we sell more units. And this increase in volume will then increase our total penny profits and offset the loss of profit we get per unit by running the discount. So there's a whole lot of things to think about. I think the best way to break this down is actually to do an example. So I'm going to quickly take us through an example on how we analyze if our discounts are effective or not. So in this first example, let's assume that we have a product that sells for $10 and we purchase that product from a producer for $5. So looking at that product, we know that we get $5 of profit for each one we sell. So we sell it for $10, it cost us $5. We have $5 left after this product sold to put into our piggy bank. So if in a typical week we sell about 1,000 of these, not about, if we sell exactly 1,000 of these items, we will end up with $5,000 to put in our piggy bank. This is just a typical week for us. So what I want to do now is take the same example, but talk about it with a discount. So I just sort of organized things here. I used to teach accounting. I like things in nice, neat, tidy tables. So that's all I did. Our same case here, we have that unit that we sell for $10 that cost us $5, and we get that $5 of profit. So let's assume we decide to run just a 10% discount on this item. So we take its price and we bring its price down from $10 to $9. The cost would stay the same to us. So we're still paying $5 to get it. So now our profit, instead of being $5 a unit, is $4 per unit. So we had a 20% decrease in penny profit on each of these items that we sell. So if we didn't drive any incremental unit volume, we just sold our same 1,000 that we normally sell, we would end up with $4,000 of profit to put in our piggy bank instead of 5. So this is very sad. This is an example of a bad discount. So we didn't drive any extra unit volume to make up for the fact that we discounted the product and thus get less profit. So let's do a little bit of math with this objective in mind to see how many more units we would need to sell. So our newly discounted product needs to get a 25% increase in units to make those same profits, and I'll show you how that works. So remember, before we were getting $5,000 in profits, but now we only get $4 per unit. So in order to still get that $5,000 of profit, we would need to sell 1,250 units at $9. So you can see that an increase in 250 units is necessary to achieve those same total penny profits. So we would deem this campaign successful, this 10% discount, if we ran this discount and we got at least 1,251 units. So if we get 1,251 units instead of our normal 1,000, we have more money to put in our piggy bank at the end of the day. We got more penny profit. So now that we kind of went through an example, what I'd like to do is take you through some example marketing campaigns. So that was just an example of how to analyze our profits, make sure our discounts are effective. Let's think about ways that we can run discounts. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 major types. And I do want to caveat this with every market across Canada and even in the US has different laws about the types of promotions you can run. So I encourage you to make sure that the promotions you're running are compliant with whatever laws you're allowed to do. I'm going to give some examples of campaigns that I know have been run in some places. It doesn't mean that we should always do all of these, but these are just some examples to kind of get our juices flowing to think about the campaigns that we can run this time of year. All right. So like I said, I'll give some examples and then I'm going to hand this off to other headsetters to walk you through examples you can do before and after running a campaign to understand how effective your discounting was. So let's get started. We'll talk about customer-focused campaigns first. Here, our goal is to alter customer behavior as it relates to total customer spend. I think it's easiest to think of your customers in 2 discrete buckets. Your current customers, so those people that already shop at your store, and your potential new customers. So those are people you're trying to get into your store that haven't been before. Let's talk about new customers first. New customers can come from many different sources. You can recruit new customers from competing retailers. You can recruit customers into cannabis that weren't previously cannabis consumers. Or you can recruit customers into the regulated channel from the illicit market. Here, retailers often do discounts like 10% off your first purchase. So maybe that's somebody signing up for a loyalty program for the first time and they get a coupon as a result of that. In some markets, people do free merchandise, like a free lighter. These campaigns are often run through an ad agency or through referrals, since a lot of times you're not going to have an established relationship with your customer. Sometimes we even see these campaigns run through sandwich boards sitting outside on sidewalks. Now let's talk about your current customers. These are the customers that already shop in your store. Likely they might even be part of your loyalty programs. So here we run discount campaigns to entice customers to spend more money. Major discounts people run for current customers include basket growth campaigns. So for example, if the average basket in your store is $50, perhaps you want to run a $5 off $75 to entice customers to increase their total baskets. Another common discount is to incent customers to decrease their purchase cycle or come in more often. For example, if a particular customer shops at your store once every 2 weeks, you could run a campaign giving the customer a 10% discount if they return to your store within the next 7 days. This entices them to come in more frequently. Later, Jules is going to go through ways to segment your customers to determine the right types of campaign based on each individual customer's behavior. But now what I would like to talk about are product-specific campaigns. Product-specific campaigns come in many flavors, but let's talk about two very common ones. The first one is a product trial campaign. These types of discounts incent customers to try a product that is either new to your store or even just new to that customer. A common campaign retailer runs here is a % off a new brand. So here it would be perhaps that new brand is in the store, you've given them new shelf space, you've highlighted their brand, and we want to drive a discount. The goal of these campaigns is to get customers to buy a product that they might not have otherwise purchased. Cassie is going to talk through later analyzing some of these campaigns. Another product-specific campaign, one of my favorites that I think usually results in really good ROI, is a product switching campaign. Here we attempt to convert consumers from a lower margin item to a higher margin item. For example, let's say that I run a retailer and I have 3 different tiers of sativa. I have a value sativa, a core price sativa, and a premium sativa. I know my margin on the premium bud is $15.08, and my margin on the value bud is $7.08. I might want to run a campaign for $3 and off an eighth of the premium bud. So before I was getting $15 of profit on every premium product I sold. If I run $3 off, now I only get $12 of profit on each of those premium buds. However, I might get some of those people to convert up from the value bud where I was only getting $7 of margin. So at the end of the day, this conversion, this moving people from the lower margin item to the higher margin item results in more profit for me for that piggy bank that I just love to put pennies into. All right, so finally, we'll talk about some event-specific campaigns. I want to break these into 2 types. The traditional holiday campaigns, so we're talking Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Boxing Day, and then cannabis-specific holidays, things like 420 and Dab Day. So for traditional holiday campaigns, these often include incenting people to include cannabis as part of their celebrations. So here what you might see is buy an eighth for yourself and get 10% off your second eighth. And there's free gift wrapping at the time. So here our goal, what we were trying to get consumers that were already in our stores to buy something for themselves, is to buy something to give as a gift to someone. Sometimes other campaigns that we've seen run in the US that seem to be successful are incenting people to purchase items for parties. So things like multi-pack joints at New Year's, or a box of very nice chocolates to take to perhaps a holiday party. There might not be as much of that this year, as I believe holiday parties will be relatively small. But those are common ones that in prior years have done quite well. This year, I think a lot of campaigns around gift giving are probably going to be more common than the ones for celebrations. For format-specific holidays, it's important to keep in mind your customers are there to buy products to celebrate. So on 420, you've got a lot of cannabis enthusiasts coming into your store. They're there to buy products. That's their entire goal. So during these times, some of the campaigns that we would like to run are discounts on high margin items. Again, convincing consumers to buy things that result in more profit for you. Or incenting larger baskets. So let's say you looked at your data and you saw last year, the average basket in your store was $100 on 420. Perhaps what you want to do is run $10 off a basket of 125 or more. So thus incenting people to spend more money and get those larger baskets. While these aren't the only campaigns that you can run for sure, these are some common examples that can often help us to incent customer behavior that drives those incremental purchases that we want and thus gives us more penny profit. So I'll hand it off next to Cooper. He's going to talk a little bit about, he's going to use some of our insights data and talk about some of the holiday trends that we saw in the US in prior years, specifically around 2.0 products.
All right, thanks, Liz. I'm going to get my screen share going. Okay, as Liz mentioned, I'm going to focus on the holiday season this year, and I'm going to do a little bit of role playing, like I am, pretend I am the manager of a brand new store in Alberta. And so, because I'm brand new, even if was a retailer premium subscriber, I wouldn't have any of my own data to look at from last year. So I'm actually going to spend my time in our insights product, which shows market level data, as Joe mentioned, to look at the demand planning module, which conveniently for all of us is a very, very similar module as in retailer premium. It would just be using my store's own data versus the market level data. So you can expect to find these same graphs in retailer premium. And so my hypothetical store manager here is going to be looking at first Alberta data from last year to just get an idea of what was happening with the market around the holidays in general. And then, like Liz mentioned, we're going to look at a US market to figure out what to expect with Cannabis 2.0. So here I am on the period over period dashboard in the demand planning module, and we're looking at all of our data available for last year, so from March through the end of 2019. And what this graph shows is the total sales by week. That's the light blue columns, and then the week over week growth for each week. So this helps us get a quick picture of what the market was doing over time, and then when there were standout moments within the year. And so we can see that Alberta's growth was really strong all through the year. Those light blue bars just get bigger and bigger as we move from left to right. But then there are also a few standout weeks. We can see over here that the week of 420 had quite strong growth. There are quite a few other spikes as we move through the year. And then this is what we're going to focus on, is this week of December 16th, where we had 13% growth over the previous week. And that is, of course, the last full week before Christmas. So I'm going to just adjust my time filter and take a closer look at the Q4 in Alberta. So this is the exact same graph, exact same filters. It's just we've changed our time frame to focus more on the end of the year. And again, we can see that steady growth through October, November, with kind of an up and down in our growth rate week over week, nothing too out of the norm there. But then the week of 12/16, we have really strong growth, really high sales, almost broke 8 million for that week. But then also what I'm noticing is while this week over week growth is low for the next week, which includes Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day, the actual sales total is 7,079,000, which was actually higher than the week of December 9th. And when we think about Christmas Day probably being an effective 0 day of sales for most retailers, I would imagine, or an extremely low day of sales for most retailers, I find that quite impressive. That tells me that this week, on a day-by-day basis, was probably super busy as well. So we have these kind of 2 weeks where we know that our store this year is likely to be busy with holiday shoppers, whether they are shopping ahead of Christmas for gift giving, for holiday parties, like Liz mentioned, or whether they were maybe shopping after Christmas on Boxing Day or getting ready for New Year's. And so, of course, we want to know what they were buying. We know that they were shopping. We know we had lots of shoppers, or we should expect lots of shoppers. We'd like to know what they were buying. So I'm going to move to a different dashboard. This one is the holiday dashboard within demand planning. And this is my personal favorite headset dashboard, but it does take a moment to get oriented. So I'll give an explanation here. What we do is we've selected Alberta again, and then you select a time period from that is 1 to 7 days in length. And so here I've selected the full week before Christmas, the 18th through Christmas Eve. And what this dashboard does is it takes your selected time period, takes the average daily sales during that selected time period, and then compares it to the average daily sales of this 4 same previous time periods. So for us here, we're comparing it to the average daily sales from the previous 4 weeks. ahead of this week last year. If I'd selected just Christmas Eve, it would compare it to the previous 4 Tuesdays. So it's a really powerful tool to quickly let you get a idea of how a certain time period or a certain day was different from the recent past. And so we're just going to focus on this category graph here. The light blue bars are the average daily sales for that category during our selected time frame, so the week before Christmas, and the purple bar shows the average daily sales for our comparison time period, or the previous 4 weeks. And the light blue dots show the growth between those 2 values. And so we can see that every one of these dots is a positive value. Flour was up 22.9%, pre-rolls were up 22.2%. We saw that in the previous graph. That's not surprising that, it was a busy time in shops in general, so all categories are up. But as we scroll to the right, we can see that both oil and capsules did considerably better than these bigger inhalable categories over here. And then cultivation, which is just seeds, did way better, but that's mostly just because there were very, very, very minimal sales in both time frames. So it's kind of easy to get that larger percent increase when sales are so small. And so this is interesting. This tells me quite a bit that all categories did well, but oil and capsules did better than flour and pre-rolls. However, of course, this doesn't have all the categories that I currently have on my shelves at my new store. So we need to get some idea of what Cannabis 2.0 products are going to do. So I'm just going to change my filters. I have the exact same time frame, but now we are looking at the state of California in the United States. And so we've got the same graph. Everything is the same, just a different market. And now we've got all 9 categories that we track in California. And so I'm just gonna move through these a little bit quickly. But we can see that almost every category has positive growth. The only one that doesn't is actually capsules, which did pretty well in Alberta last year. So that would be something to keep in mind. If other categories are available, perhaps they won't perform as well this year. Flour did fine at plus 11%. It seems like a lot of categories kind of hover within this plus 10 to plus 20%. We've got vapor pens, pre-rolls, concentrates, tinctures, all in that arena. But then there are 3 that stand out to me. We've got edibles way up at almost 35% increase. We've got topicals at almost 40% increase, and we've got beverages above 20%. So to me, the kind of uniting factor I can think of with those products is, like Liz mentioned, they seem like great gifts. They're very approachable for maybe new cannabis users or infrequent cannabis users. And beverages and edibles in particular seem like a great option to bring to a holiday gathering. So far, we've kind of determined that sales will likely be busy around the holiday season. And we can now know that customers are more likely to be interested in edibles, beverages, and topicals, perhaps more than in other categories. And what I guess the next question that we maybe all have together now is, why specifically? Do we have any more data to tell us why these particular categories did so well in California? And I think one logical assumption would be maybe they were discounted more. Maybe stores in general, since they've gone through a few Christmases now, a few holiday seasons in California with all of these products available on the shelf, perhaps they, expected these sales increases, and so then they added more discounts to these products than the rest of the products on their shelf, driving more traffic to them. So we're going to jump over to the discounting dashboard, the demand planning discounts dashboard, to check that out. So now we're looking at California. We're looking at the whole month of December by week, and we're just looking at sales for those 3 categories: beverages, edibles, and topicals. This first graph shows us the unit volume by week and the average discount for the categories we've selected. So we do see that units went way up for the week of the 16th and stayed pretty high for the week that includes Christmas. And discounts did rise significantly. We went from 8.1% to 9.2%. So more than a full percentage point on the average discount market wide. But of course, this is only showing us data for these three categories. My next question is, did this happen for the whole market, or was this unique to these categories? If we scroll down, there's a graph that will tell us exactly that. The light blue bar is the average discount by week for the total market. The purple bar is the average discount for our filter selection. So two clear takeaways here. The same trend existed for both the total market and for the categories we've selected. They both, the discounts went up for the week of the 16th and stayed high for the week of Christmas. However, the average discount for these kind of gift-oriented categories that we've selected was consistently lower than the total market. So that tells me that the drive towards these products wasn't only because they were more discounted than average. So I think we can perhaps find one more piece of evidence to drive this home. So I'm going to go back to the holiday dashboard for California. And again, I've selected those three categories, and we're going to scroll down to a table down here. And this shows us, this is going to be split out by brands. And this shows us, again, we're thinking about that week before Christmas, the average daily sales versus the average daily sales on the previous 4 weeks. And this far right column shows us the percent increase when we compare those two timeframes. So these top three brands did very well. Two brands were about 40% up. Wild was about 72% up, so they did extremely well. And so we can look here and see that the select date discount, so the week before Christmas, for each one of these three brands, this discount was lower than the average of the discount for the previous 4 weeks. So these three brands increased their sales without increasing their discount. They actually all lowered their discount. If we drop down to number 4 here, Plus, their total sales were actually a little bit down, and their discount increased significantly. We went from 9% to 14%. So my time is just about up, but I just want to wrap up by kind of walking through what we've seen. I think we should expect sales to be up around the holiday season, at least in Alberta, as we saw in Insights. That seems to be a busy time, both leading up to Christmas and the week of Christmas itself, including Christmas Eve and Boxing Day. I would expect these same trends these category level trends to be consistent in Canada now that customers have access to these products. We've seen the same trends year after year in all of our US markets. Edibles, beverages, topicals are really popular around the holidays. And we have blog posts and industry reports that you can go find on our website that will verify that. And it looks like to me that consumers want these products, and they're not going to be terribly price sensitive or discount hungry for these particular products. So to wrap up, I would advise Canadian retailers to stock up on these products, but don't cut into your own margins on these products, because I think customers want them already. I think if to drive some more revenue during the holidays, flower is on every day of the year going to be the biggest revenue driver in the average cannabis shop in any market. So Liz was talking about maybe some basket expansion promotional ideas could include, we know customers are coming in for edibles, so maybe you buy a full price edible, you get 10% off a premium priced eighth or something like that. But that is my time. So I am going to pass the mic over to Cassie, who's going to take us into Retailer Premium.
Thank you, Cooper. Give me a second as I get my screen shared. Okay. Hi, folks. I am so pumped to get the opportunity to talk to you about discounting. It's definitely one of my favorite things to analyze. So for this analysis, I'm going to pretend I work at Emerald City Belltown. And unlike Cooper's store, I have been open since 2019, and I can look at last year's trends for Christmas as well as Boxing Day. So to begin our journey with one another, we are going to start with our flexible dashboard discount overview that can be found in Retailer Pulse. This is one of my favorites because I can stay on it while I work through a whole analysis. I'm really curious about our discounting activity from last holiday season, and I want to see the relationship between average percent discount and units sold. The first graph, average percent discount and unit volume, shows units as the bars and discounts is the line. Since there are no filters selected on top, this first graph is showing data for my whole store. I see that last holiday season, we were discounting around 17% and getting about 18,000 units in December. But as we look at recent months, we see a different trend thanks to COVID. I'm seeing a much higher discount so far in October this year compared to what we had last year. I am not going to shift my focus to see what is happening in my store currently. Since my discounting is already so high, maybe I can keep the same level of discounts, but work on getting some more incremental units. Let's continue our journey by diving into the last 90 days. We now see that discounts have slipped, have actually gone up a little bit, but we're not seeing much growth within units. This is again for my whole store, but I was listening to Cooper when he was talking about some very popular categories for the holiday. I'm going to dive into edibles and see how that category is doing in my store. I updated the dashboard to show just data for edibles. In the first graph, we see edibles have been very steady, except this last week we've had a pretty big dip. So let's go down to the brand level and see if there's any room for improvement with brands pricing. Average item price and discount percentage shows average item price as the blue bars, and the orange dots are going to be the percentage discount. I'm reviewing these edible brands and I am noticing some high percentage discount on some cheaper brands, but premium products aren't that highly discounted. I think I have an action item for us. After reviewing all this data, an action I will be taking is to increase my discounting on premium products and decrease on cheaper products within the edible category and see how that affects my edible unit sales. If this is successful, this can also help me determine a good strategy for my other categories as the holiday season comes up. That's all the time I'm going to spend with you on this dashboard, and we could spend a lot of time on this dashboard. But I'm going to move forward to a new dashboard that we have for you. We made this dashboard to allow users to compare 2 time periods of data. Let's say you are updating your edible discount strategy the first week in October. So you're discounting less on cheaper edible products, but strengthening them on premium products. And you just want to simply compare the sales of the first week in October to the previous week. This makes it really easy to see that indeed edibles had discounted. So you just have the first week of October selected, then the prior week for the comparable date. We're looking at total units, and then I just have it sliced by category so I can actually see if this increase was across all categories or just the edible categories. But we can see easily that indeed edibles had increased that first week in October compared to the prior week. And you also have a nice dot percentage that says the percentage change, as well as a nice table if you want to download it and dive in further. So that's actually all I have to share with you today. Up next, we have our awesome, fabulous Jewel that's going to talk about segmentation. Jewel, it's all you now.
All right, thanks, Cassie. So let me just get my screen shared over here. Hi, everyone. I am really excited to show you these new features. And what we have here is a whole new section on RFM segmentation. So just to back it up for a second, the reason we added these features is because, throughout this whole presentation, we've been talking about discounts that you might want to be able to send out to your customers, and you need a way to communicate those discounts. So using segmentation, you can target exactly who to give that discount to, who it's going to be effective to, and not eat into your margins, and minimize the amount of messages you're sending. So especially if you're doing text message communication, it can get expensive to send out a lot of messages. So this cuts down your costs and boosts your effectiveness of your campaigns. So to start with, let's define how these segments are built. These are built on an RFM model, which stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value. So recency means how recently did the customer purchase at your store? Frequency is how often do they come to your store? Monetary value is how much does the customer spend? So we take these three factors and kind of rank all your customers along them and use that to create 10 different segments. So these segments are all based on these. Some of them, you know, are higher recency, lower frequency, what have you. And what we get are these segments here. Oops. So I'm not going to read through all of these. We are going to send out this presentation afterwards, so you can read through it at your leisure. And all of this is documented on our knowledge base as well, including all the actionable tips. But what we have here is our segments, our activities, and what defines that segment, and an actionable tip about them. So these are kind of the top end of your customers. You have your champions, your loyal customers, your potential loyal customers. And with these people, it's really about keeping them engaged. It's less about giving them discounts and more about making them feel special and making sure that they keep coming to your store. And then these are kind of the bottom groups. So customers that need attention or they're at risk, you can't lose them. So can't lose is a really interesting group because they're people who used to come often. They made really big purchases when they did, but they haven't been there in a long time. So it's like you want to win them back. Lots of different things you can do here. So let's get into the dashboards I have for you. Let me just share that screen. And here we go. Hope you can all see that right. So we'll start here on our overview. So this is a new section available right now in Retailer Premium. And you can find it right here in the left-hand menu. We've got an overview and then we've got a file. So this overview allows you to compare all of your different segments. So the first thing you need to know is that we're only looking at customers for which we have some kind of customer information for. And that's either going to be email addresses or phone numbers. And we can switch depending on what kind of campaign we're running. So if I was going to run an email campaign, I could choose that. Right now I have it set it to phone. I think I'm going to run a text message campaign. So we can see down here how many people are in each group and how much total revenue each of these groups are bringing. So, you know, we only have 45 champions. They're bringing quite a bit of money, but not quite as much as our loyal customers. There's only 4 more of those, but there's about $2 grand more in spending there. So this is just a quick way to see what your customer base looks like. Like our champions on average spend $255, or our loyal customers on average spend $272. Some other groups here. And we can compare how much of our percentage of our customers is made up by a group versus how much revenue we're bringing. So you can see how disproportionate this like purple champions is to this purple champions wedge here. So small group, but a big amount of our revenue. So we really want to make sure that we keep them engaged and happy. And down here is kind of a way of understanding what RFM means and visually seeing it. So our R for recency, that's kind of our y-axis here, which is the average days since last visit. So the closer to 0 this is, the more recently they were in your store. So the people up here haven't been in your store for a while. People down here, they've been in fairly recently. Your x-axis here is your average trips per customer. So that's your frequency value. So the further to the right, the more they're coming in. So like your champions in this store, the average trips per customer is like 11. Whereas, you know, for our loyal customers, it's only about 5. And then the size of the dot is our monetary value. So the bigger the dot, the more the spending for that group. So you can use this to get a sense of how many people are in each campaign or are in each segment and how you might want to run a campaign towards them. So once we're ready to run a campaign, we can go to our segment file here, and you can see I already have our champion segment selected. I think I've decided that for this holiday season, we've got a bunch of new products. You know, all of Cannabis 2.0 is now in our stores. People are still getting used to and understanding these products, but I think we have a real chance here to engage our champions, show them, and really have kind of maybe like a private event with some education involved on like new cannabis products and what things would make good gifts for their friends and family that maybe aren't as experienced with cannabis for them. Because these people, anyone who's spending this much money on cannabis, I bet that they serve as a cannabis resource within their own little community. So I want them to kind of do some evangelism for me. So I'm going to have a special private event for them, and I'm just going to call them up each individually and invite them. So what I can do is I can go to this segment file and I can get all of their phone numbers here. And I can, if I wanted to bring this into my CRM, I could just download this by saying download data. And I could make this a CSV so that it's really easy to upload into Spring Big or whatever CRM I'm using. I could also be doing this through email. I could upload it directly to MailChimp, make a beautiful little invite to send them. Or if I wanted to have a really personal touch, I could just take these phone numbers right here and just straight up call them. I could just call all these people and ask them if they want to come hang out at my store, get a sense of Cannabis 2.0 products, see some good things for gifts, maybe give them some kind of really small, just like volume discount kind of thing, like you buy 10 items or something. So that's one thing we can do. And that's really how you would use this kind of segment section. You use the one to just understand your segments and the opportunities there. And then you use the segment file to download and upload into whatever CRM you're using. So we hope that you like this new product. And with that, I will kick it back to you, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Jewel. So we also, in addition to Retailer Premium, we have a lot of additional resources. We have 2 industry reports and 3 blog posts really geared towards holiday planning and gearing up for the holiday season. So please check those out. Those are available and accessible on our website. And I think now we will just open it up for a Q&A before I close it out. So if anyone has any questions, please type them in the Q&A section. We have a couple of questions from our previous webinar, the US markets kind of counterpart to this one, that we can pose if we don't have any questions at this moment. So I guess I'll ask the first question. The first question was, what is the average discount a store runs? I don't know, Liz or Cooper, do you want to take one of those?
Yeah, I'll do that one for you, Joe.
Okay.
So the average discount does vary a lot by the market and the type of product. So on average, we see discounts in Canada being only around 2 or 3% of the total sales volume. But that's because fewer baskets have discounts. So when a basket does have a discount, you'll see things like a 10 or 15% discount be present. However, we don't see discounts happening in quite as many baskets in Canada as we do in the US. In the US, average discounts hover around between 9 and 10%.
Awesome.
I think there are 2 or 3 other questions that just got added. The first one is, there's an offer for listeners for Retailer Premium. That sounds like a statement or even a demand, and that is true. So Melanie, yeah, I do believe there's one. I think that Joe will talk about that here in just a moment. Joe, do you maybe want to give them a little bit of details there?
Yeah, so we are offering a free week trial with Retailer Premium where we'll basically turn it on for your headset account. We'll make sure that you're kind of trained appropriately on how to use the tool. And for that week, you can kind of see if, it would be a useful tool for you. So it's a free week trial. You can contact myself. You can reach out to anyone at the headset, part of the headset team, to learn how to redeem that.
And so we had another question about how the customer data comes into the system. So we connect with your point of sale. And so if your point of sale system is retaining those customer records and whatever type of contact information, that's where that comes from. It does vary a little bit point of sale to point of sale, but if you reach out, Joe can help you figure that out a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. One of the other questions that we had from the last webinar was, what are typical discount amounts around the holiday in particular? Cooper or Liz?
I can jump in on that one. Yeah,
okay.
I can pull up insights actually if you'd let me share my screen and just do one more quick demo. Okay. So I just pulled up insights again for California, but I also we can look at Alberta as well. But here we're looking at edibles in particular versus the total market. So the total market is that light blue line. Edibles are the dark purple. So we do see that, like, as I showed in my portion, discounts increased from early December to that holiday time. So like that, we went from the total market average from 8.5% to 9.4%. Edibles stayed lower, but went through the same trend. This big spike here is the week of American Thanksgiving, which is also the week of Green Wednesday and Black Friday. Black Friday being a traditional retail holiday, Green Wednesday being the new cannabis counterpart. But let's look at Alberta as well. This is not the right time frame because we're not looking at a holiday. Let's look at October through December of last year. This will just help. You can see on the graph from this year that these percentages are much lower than the United States. And so there were no edibles last year, so this is just the total market, but we did again see an increase into the holiday season, but it's from 2% to closer to 3%. So same trend, but lower magnitude.
Great. So we had another question. Do you know what percentage of customers are providing their phone, email in the Alberta market?
Yeah, I don't actually
Liz,
know that.
would you happen to?
It's going to be pretty different retailer to retailer and based on, the types of the loyalty programs you're running or membership programs you're running. So yeah, it would be quite different retailer to retailer for sure.
Got it. All right. I think that's, if anyone else has any more questions, now or never, feel free to also follow up and we can ask questions offline. But again, yeah, thank you so much for coming, everyone. We'll be sending out a recap of the webinar and those details around how to kind of redeem that free week of Retailer Premium shortly. And then, yeah, just best of luck this holiday season. We're here to help. So if you need anything, please reach out to myself, anyone on the data team. And again, thanks so much for coming. Great. Thanks, guys.